Hello, welcome to May 3rd, 2022. I'm Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation. This is a daily activity. I do this every morning just after waking up and cleaning up to sit down and to think about my life's objectives and the principles that I use to help me make those objectives real. Because the objectives are not necessarily something to achieve; they're something to enact. It's a way of being, and it's a sustained living. It's not something that I meet the objective and I'm done. That's why it requires all this work. And then to do this, I look at my day that just passed and the night that I slept or didn't. And then I recite each of the objectives and principles in turn to a greater or lesser degree. Sometimes I talk about them more, sometimes I just move on. And then I plan for the day. It's such an interesting part of my life doing this. It's the most, personally, the most serious part of the day. Anyway, let's get on with it. First, last night and yesterday, I got to sleep a little bit later than usual. I was probably in bed by 9:45. The day just unfolded, or yesterday afternoon unfolded a little out of sync, out of time. But the good news is that I slept in. I didn't sleep in. I slept longer. I did wake up into kind of a semi-twilight wakeness, an hour or so before the alarm went off, but I wasn't fully awake. And then I was startled that the alarm actually went off, and I was still, asleep. So that's good. Actually, sleeping is good. So I feel kind of rested. I feel like I should deserve more rest because of being so asleep when the alarm went off, but I don't. But I'm mustering that more and more. Now, especially now that I understand that this is the challenging time. These I guess they're pre-dawn hours because it's still dark outside. The next what is it? It's 5:30, 5:20. It's 5:27 right now. 5:28 a.m. The next hour and a half. No, next 2 hours. The next 2 hours are the toughest hours of the day. Yeah, the toughest hours. All things being relative, of course. It's interesting. When I was a younger person, in my 30s and 40s, I always did the workaday routine. Got up, cleaned up, fed up, fed myself, and off to work. But there was no chance of relief then. And I was younger. And my mind was, I want to struggle to say, the thing that's coming to mind is less expansive. It's not like it's like I'm onto the game now. I knew this was a trick way back then. I knew that this whole, this whole engine of our economy, of our, we are like hive insects, like, we are social creatures, and our societies, work through the combined cooperation and hard work of the community. Just like an ant colony wouldn't succeed long if the ants didn't do their thing, work hard every day. So do we. We do our thing. But back then, I thought that I was unique. I thought that my life was a one-off of some sort. And I thought that something could be achieved through the hard work, which all of those things are to a degree true. I am unique, I am a one-off, and I can achieve things through this hard work. I can create a home and a family and all the benefits that come from that, and even some meaning, achieve some meaning that I consider to be worthwhile. So all the while, I thought that it was like working towards some end, even if it was just a granted end. A granted end. Like that. But now, closing in on 60, and I think this is the case with a lot of people my age, even if we don't string out the words and the thoughts just so, we see the game for what it is, not even a game. We see I call it in Going Alone, maybe twice in the book, and I never go into detail, but I refer to it, and this is not a unique thought by any means, as the machine, right? I mean, it's a well-worn, is it a trope? The machine. And my part that I played in the machine, just like an ant, seemingly, or a bee in their machine, or an E. coli bacterium in its machine. And now that the machine has had its use of me, my kid is grown and ready to go do her own thing. She could perfectly capable of standing on her own 2 feet now. She'd stumble a bit if she had to, but she's perfectly capable of. The GDP has had its way with me. I'm spent. And I know it. And I know now that my life was a worthwhile life. Because the machine isn't a bad thing. And in some ways, it's all we've got. In some ways, it is the apparatus of our end, the apparatus that is our end, right? Being a part of it, being a cog in this great apparatus, for a nihilist like me, what more is there than to play a role in a superstructure that values that role, sheltered, with the hatches buttoned down against the universe that doesn't give a damn. So yeah, my life's been worthwhile. I've been an ant crawling across the ground for, my adult life, or a worker bee tending to the grubs, or an E. coli, busily, doing whatever the hell E. coli do in our gut. So I'm done with that. I've got a few more years. I'm at the tail end. I can see the end. That's one thing different now, is that I can see the end. When I was in my 30s, there was seemingly no end. I had a small child. I had, responsibilities. And I did my thing. I got up in the morning, trudged off, and I powered through the day. I'm probably physically in better shape than I was then. Mentally, I'm in a much better place than I was in my 30s. I was a mess. I was even a mess through all those softy papa years. I was keeping up a good front, pretending to be Lyle's brother. I wasn't pretend. Those were genuine thoughts, but those Lyle's brother videos were a man gasping for air in a drowning sea. I was having a really hard time through all those years. all my life, all my adult life, from roughly 18 all the way until probably about ever since I started doing this good life meditation. That's when things really, nothing changed since I started doing this daily. But my expectations and perspective and my ability to manage the day-to-day changed. The point I started all this, I started really down a long streak, didn't I? But the point of it was that though I'm still stuck in the machine, I see a way out now. You know, Yumiko and I, just a few more years. You know, our retirement won't be a rich retirement. Our retirement won't be. We're not going to be jet setting the world. But if we can just find ourselves a little comfortable, little, hideaway somewhere, and then have our days to ourselves, even if that means working, that's fine. Because I would like to keep occupied in some place, but just not to have to work. Well, I don't even mind if I have to work. I just don't want to burn my mind down every day. Yumiko told me over the weekend that she would just love to be a checker at not a checker, but a stalker at a supermarket, stocking shelves all day. I'm all for that, you know. And I countered. I said, what countered? I added to that. I know Trader Joe's, right? They've got more people stocking the shelves at Trader Joe's than customers. And they get to wear whatever the hell they want, listen to good music all day, and work with really interesting people. But I don't think there's any Trader Joe's in Japan, because we're going to wind up there. Okay, well, I went on and off. This was a meander down some mental garden path this morning. Pardon me, goodness gracious, so gross. So how did I do with my my criteria? I made my video. I wrote in my journal entry, a good entry yesterday, good entry, and I read well over 10 pages. I read 10 pages exactly in the James Boswell's book, Life of Samuel Johnson. I know I read 10 pages exactly, because what I do is every day when whatever book I'm reading, when I start the day, in the upper margin, I destroy my books. I write all over them, and I color them and mark them up, and it's fun to look back in an old book and then see all the stuff and the marks in the. So I mark the date that I start that page. I did this so that I could start measuring my pages. Well, I did it initially because I was just curious. See how much I was reading. Reading it is a quantifiable thing for me because I have a goal to achieve, a criteria. So I read 10 pages exactly on the life of Samuel Johnson. I know that because after work I sat, because I wanted to read something different too. Because that's 3 volumes, 1,200 pages. So I wanted to mix something up. So I have the Norton Anthology of American Literature sitting over there, and I wanted to walk and read that in the afternoon. So I sat here and deliberately read the 10 pages before. That's one of the reasons why last night was off kilter, right? I got to bed earlier, because sitting here and reading my 10 pages, because then because I read 2 pages during lunch, and then 8 pages here, and then I took a late walk with the dogs, and then I must have read 15 pages of that thing. I was reading some really interesting stuff. Native American trickster stories. Very interesting. Did you know that the Native American trickster carried his penis in a box, and it still worked? Go figure. I've heard of carrying your heart on your sleeve, but your penis in a box? So I did that. So I met all the criteria. So I get a circle. And Andrew, if you see this, you had asked me about what color I was using for the weeks that I achieved the goal. I wanted to use green, but the paper that it's made of, and I was going to use my Koopi, because I've always had Koopi, and I'll always have Koopi crayons. The crayon it's not very visible. It doesn't show. It's not very distinct. So I kind of went around and then I erased it and I tried yellow and that didn't work either. And so now it's nothing. And I don't want to use just a pen because what I'm afraid of, because I need to do this for the rest of my life, I'm afraid if I use a colored pen that I won't always find that colored pen. Then I'll have to switch to a different colored pen, like let's say a green colored pen. Then I have to switch to a different green colored pen in 5 years or so, 2 years when we move back to Japan, and I can't get that pen anymore. And then the colors will be different. So I haven't got a good idea. If anybody has any good ideas, how to have a consistent color that is, now there's no way you can know this because you need the medium to try it against, so that it will show well on that particular paper because it's kind of a glossy paper. So I haven't worked on the problem. I haven't solved that problem yet, but I got my circle. Yay. Penis in a box. Okay, let's do, is there anything else from yesterday? Oh, the meetings went really well. The executive meeting, the steering committee meeting I did went really well. I won't go there. I wanted to say something, but something profound, I think. But it touches a little bit too close to reality. Maybe in 10 years I can talk about that. Yeah, there's something else happening in my life, in my past, kind of, that is been on my mind since yesterday afternoon. Basically, the superstructure of my worldview suffered an earthquake yesterday. Pardon me. And the walls came tumbling down. That's what I'll journal about that today, because I want to capture that thought. The walls came tumbling. Yes, they did. I'm never going to be the same. Let me just suffice it to say that I have lived my whole life with a premise of merit. That, here, I'm starting to step into it. I don't want to. And my premise of merit was a naive idea. Merit doesn't always win. It seems obvious now. I want to go down, but I won't, because it touches too close to reality at this point. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. Sorry. Okay, my good life meditation. 7 objectives, 30 principles, as follows. The 7 objectives are to be always ready to die, to have everything in order, settled and sound as possible. Number 2, to make good and effective use of time. Excuse me. I'm no time waster. I can barely do it if I tried. 3, to develop and maintain my life principles and objectives. 4, to cultivate good emotional reactions. Boy, has that seen fruit in the last 5 months or so. Who's that guy? Man, I see the ambush coming now. And even if I don't see it coming, even if the ambush gets me, I can barely be budged. I wonder if Yumiko notices that different. That might be a subject for discussion this weekend. I might ask her, have I changed? Because I think I have, a lot. The next is to perform good actions, just to do good things throughout the day, and then to recognize my limits and my opportunities, the true ones at least, not to fool myself, and then to do just one thing at a time and do things slowly and deliberately and carefully. I'm going to go back to that point, the thing I didn't want to talk about, and let me just put it this way. I witnessed the world not unfolding the way I think it should unfold, the way I think that good effort and ability should be rewarded. I'm not talking about myself. I'm not seeking any more reward. And where cunning and conniving should fail. And I've witnessed the opposite. And in a circumstance where people are smart enough to know better. And now maybe I don't know all the facts, but it sure does look like to me like personal ambition wins out over doing what's right. And how am I so naive to be saying this like it's something new at 58? Shouldn't that have been obvious? So I guess how naive I've been. And it's soiled me because now I won't see the world the same. I'm in danger now of becoming even more of a curmudgeon than I was, which I don't think I was much. I'm becoming more of a person that's going to say the system's all rigged, corrupt to the core. What's the opposite of a meritocracy? Idiocracy. Old boys network, maybe. And just to be clear, this has nothing to do with my current circumstances. Nothing to do with where I am, what I do at all right now. This is all the past raising its head, seeing something in my rear view, far in my rear view mirror now. No, I'm not too far. Boy, I've given away too much now. I'm gonna leave it at that. Okay, now I've got 30 principles. These are: 1, the principle of war, to always fight against what I think is true. 2, or what others tell me is true, at least if it seems important. 2, the principle of reason and the sub-principles. Don't talk too fast, Kurt. Enunciate your words. These sub-principles of honesty, objectivity, and doubt, which is the frame of mind that I have in approaching the world. Number 3, the homunculus, the suggestion that I don't have a soul, though I clearly don't have a soul. I do have a consciousness, clearly. I get to have that, at least while I'm conscious. So make good use of it. And then the Anchorhold, the idea that my consciousness is trapped within my head, that it can, at best, signal across this space to others. Can't really be close to them. Even in an embrace, I'm still not that close. And then purpose, and my 3 purpose are to be a good husband and father, to be a virtuous human being, helping to improve the well-being of others and myself, and then to share the story of going alone and the resulting message of the good life, the creed of the good life. And then next is the atomic principle. Everything is made of little bits and pieces falling to pieces. And then principle of nature. Everything has some particular nature, and it's good to recognize what that is. I guess I know I recognize that nature the thing I was talking about. And then the pirate ride, the suggestion that free will is a very convincing illusion, but we don't really have it, even though we can choose anything we want. The choices that we make were the only ones that we could have made, because the universe has nudges us and pushes us and jostles us in place. And then the maturity and the sub-principles of wisdom and fortitude, which are the approach that I take in trying to improve by remembering my past successes and failures and trying to do better, avoid the mistakes and capitalize on the improvements, do more of what works. And then social principle, we are social creatures, we need each other. Human beings do not do well for long alone. And then the public speaking, to use few words, carefully chosen words, deliberate words, and to never ever gossip. And then two principles that go together, like butter and bread. The distraction and agency and the great indifference. The great indifference is the apprehension of a universe without God. That's what we don't want to see, because that means that we're alone. So we instead spend our whole lives distracting ourselves with our work and our families and our beliefs and our sports and our church and whatever. And maybe that's also because that's part of the way the machine works. But these two to go together. I choose to not, I mean, I do the distraction, but I choose to, try to squeeze past and witness the great indifference, because that's a pretty awe-inspiring vista and a very sobering reality to contemplate. Then comes temperance and the sub-principles of suffering, simplicity, and apathy, which we suffer when we tell ourselves we can't have another cookie. And a temperate life is a simple life where we're denying ourselves what we want sometimes, or simplifying things. And then apathy, where we can recognize what is outside of our control and deny ourselves engaging in that good self-control. And then the horror show. Life is an absolute terror festival. Just terrible things of the most horrendous sort happening everywhere, all around us. And eventually, if not now, to us as well. And then that which must be borne, carried. What we have to bear is the horror show, the fact of the horror show. And we have to also bear whatever responsibilities we've assumed and accepted as members of the machine. And then the Feast of Offal, which is the waste and byproduct of our intemperate living. What happens when we get upset and rail into the world, let the world know what we think, and upset those around us. Likewise, the Feast of Offal, this is the feast part, is when we see others doing the same, and we make popcorn to soak it all up. And that's not a good thing. It soils us, and it's kind of a voyeuristic thing, and it's not good. So I try not to do it, and instead offer solace when I can to someone suffering, and certainly not to engage in the spreading the feast myself. Hold it in, and I let it out other ways. It's not even really letting it out; it's consuming it from within. I consume the violence within. Then comes it's consuming the inner violence. I'm just full of them this morning. These are potential titles that I'm writing down. Consuming the inner violence, the violence within. And after the Feast of Offal comes oh yeah. Wait. I already did that Feast of Offal. Didn't I? See, now I'm all confused. And then distraction and agency and the great indifference. Yeah. Oh, next is the best seat in the house, to not want to be anyone else or be anywhere else or be doing anything else, but to be okay who I am, where I am, and what I'm doing. All the while striving to improve. Then the Path of Wildness. It's a way forward and through new life, into new life. Yumiko and I are on the path now, headed back to Japan. We've been on the path several times, at least 5 times in our life, where she and I have created a new life. It doesn't even have to be a wholesale creation of a new life. It can be a branching into something new of any sort. Then After the Path of Wildness comes the risk of avoiding risk. The surface level risks of life are education and career and family and home and security. It's good to attend to those things, but it's also good to seek after the deep risk of finding ourselves. If we don't attend to that early, it haunts us. So it's good to do both. I recommend tending to ourselves, tending to the search early in our 20s, and then coming back in the 30s and beginning to engage on the surface level risks, the machine. Joining the machine. Well, I guess the deep level stuff, that's part of the machine too, right? Because humans are more complex than ants, seemingly. Are we? I guess we are. Sure, we think bigger thoughts. We have bigger, more bodies. I don't know if we're more complex bodies, but anyway, that's beside the point. I'm just suggesting that maybe finding ourselves is part of the machine too, because it contributes to the overall value add. It's a value add to the greater apparatus. Okay, so there's that. Then next comes the sin and damnation. There are 7 sins in my worldview. These relate to being untrue, believing things that are untrue, and gossiping again. So falsity, credulity, faith, superstition, dogma, authority, and gossip. So any of those things, bad things to do, they're sins, including faith. Yeah, faith. Faith, is belief founded on belief, which is get you anywhere you want to be. And getting anywhere we want to be is a convenient tool convenient avenue to certitude and complacency, not a highway to truth, not necessarily at least. Next comes complete oblivion. When we die, that'll be the end of us. There's no coming back and there's no afterlife, apparently. So that means that we won't have any reunion with our loved ones. We'll never see them again after we die, or after they die. They'll have no chance to reconcile any differences, and there'll be no final justice. So seek after reunion, reconciliation, and justice, no vigilantism in the here and now. The one chance we get, seemingly. Next is the Great Life Adventure. One or more centerpiece spotlight experiences that becomes our story of life. And then the season of philosophy, which is the time to record what we've learned along the way. Have the journal ready. Write the words down when they come, because otherwise they'll pass. You'll never get them back. And then the bullseye aim, striving to hit the mark and usually missing. The uphill climb, climbing steadily every day, getting up, hauling our carcass another couple of inches up the mountain. And then the agency and the great indifference is next. Life is this arena that we get to live in, and it's good to have our principles at the ready to use towards helping us achieve our objectives, like a gladiator stepping into the arena with his tools. Were there ever female gladiators, I wonder, or her tools? And then nothing is enough. Just a reminder to simplicity, a lot like Temperance, but a little bit different. An explicit suggestion to have less. And then the last one is the principle of fun, a reminder to just have a good time, clean, wholesome good time. And the sub-principles of hope, looking forward to good times in the future, because that's the sweetest type in some ways, because it's not soiled with the here and now. we can have our beautiful cake, and it's perfect. And then the retrospect, looking back at the past, again stripping, because looking back tends to strip away the painful stuff for the most part, and we can have a perfect imperfect memory. That's interesting. But that's exactly what it is, right? We perfectly remember an imperfect past. Wow, that's a good way to describe retrospect. Are we fooling ourselves? Sure. But I don't know about you, but I've been a fool all along. I just keeping up, keeping up with appearances. And that's my good life meditation. That was fun to do it that way. I kind of did it both categorically and enumerating each one. I like the fingers kind of help keep things moving along. It's interesting how I do this differently, if I do say so myself. Now let's plan for the day. I got a boatload of meetings today. I got like 7 meetings today. There's not going to be a moment to think straight. I've got some challenging meetings. We've got the last one's going to be especially challenging because I've got to get everybody to have an opinion but not make any changes. Okay, everybody, we're going to work real hard and do nothing. Well, we should be doing nothing because we should be at that point. Although I know that nothing. So funny because, well, nothing is the mission at this point. We've come far enough along. This would be the 8.5 meeting of a 9 meeting series. We should be nearly done. So I guess that's right. It would be the correct thing if everybody, it would be really the best thing if everybody gets in that meeting and just says, well, our work here is done. That would be awesome. And just and correct. Because it's like when you finish tuning the car and I don't know and then you fire it up and it runs just perfectly smooth. Well, work here is done. Okay, lots of meetings. I'm going to need my energy. I got some big things I need to be working on and doing, and I got some scary stuff coming, but I can handle it. I'm up to the task. I don't even need to tell myself that. I know it now. And I found I'm lucky. I found a sweet spot. Yeah. All right. Have a good day. Be safe, but not too safe. Take care.